What's going on, everybody? It's ETA Prime back here again. Today I'm going to be testing out Android X86 on the all-new Atomic Pi single-board computer. If you're not familiar with the Atomic Pi, I just created a full review video. I'll leave a link in the description. Go ahead and check that out. It's an awesome little single-board computer, and it costs $35. This is powered by an Intel Atom X5 Z8350. It's a quad-core CPU at 1.44 GHz with a boost up to 1.92, 2 GB of DDR3 RAM, and built-in Intel HD graphics. At $35, it's a heck of a deal. So what I'm running here is actually Prime OS. I did test out the original Android X86 7.1.2, but I ran into a few issues running PUBG. That's one of the main reasons I wanted to create this video, because a lot of people were asking me about it. Prime OS works great on the Atomic Pi, but there's one major issue. Sound through HDMI is not working, so I had to use a USB to 3.5mm audio jack to get sound out with this video. If you're not really worried about playing PUBG, the original version of Android X86 7.1.2 works great, and you also have sound over HDMI, Bluetooth, and Wi-Fi. So here we are with Prime OS. If you want to install this, I've made tutorials on how to install Prime OS and Android X86. I'll leave links in the description for you. You're going to install it just like you would on any PC, from a USB drive to the internal storage on the Atomic Pi. In this video, I'm going to be testing out some native Android games, and I'll also go with some N64 emulation. But first up, let's open up Ida64 and take a look at the specs. As you can see here, we have that 2 GB of RAM, and the model is known as an MF001 for some reason. And this is the 64-bit version of Prime OS. For the CPU, we have that Intel Atom X5 Z8350. It's a quad-core at 1.44 GHz with a boost up to 1.92. For the GPU, we have that built-in Intel HD Cherry Trail version, 500 MHz with 12 execution cores. And this version of Prime OS is based on Android 7.1.2. So the first thing I usually like to do are run some benchmarks. First up, we have Geekbench 4. On the single core side of things, we scored a 963. For multi-core, 2,813. Like I said at the beginning of this video, don't let these scores fool you. This is a low-end chip, but it does a great job in Android. In 3D Mark for Ice Storm Extreme, we scored a 7,729, and for Slingshot, we scored a 1,698. Now remember that, 1,698. If we take a look at the comparison charts, in the top tier here is the Galaxy S10. It scored a 5,532. So we're way off from that, but we're also way off on the price, because this board was only $35. So we're on the lower end side in the Android phone market, but as Android TV boxes go, this is actually scoring much higher than the S905 would in 3D Mark Slingshot Extreme. And by the way, with Prime OS or the original version of Android X86, we do have access to the full Google Play Store, and there's really nothing we need to do except for sign in. I noticed a few things missing in here like Asphalt 9 and Netflix, but you could sideload them if you really wanted to. Let's go ahead and move over to some native Android gameplay. First up, we got PUBG, because this is my most requested. Prime OS uses a key mapper, so we could use our keyboard with this, and when you play PUBG on here, you're going to be paired with other people using an emulator. So you can fully customize the keys if you want to. You can use a controller or a keyboard. I happen to have a mouse and keyboard plugged in. I have the graphics quality in PUBG set to balanced. You could go a bit lower because I do notice a stutter here and there, but overall it works really well on the Atomic Pi running Prime OS. So like I said, sound isn't working over HDMI. I'm using a simple, really cheap $3 USB adapter to plug right into your USB port. I'm using a 4-port hub here on the Atomic Pi, but you could also connect a Bluetooth speaker to this, because Bluetooth and Wi-Fi do work in Prime OS. So PUBG performs pretty well. I was expecting Minecraft to perform equally as well. And it works great here. I do notice some lag every once in a while when you look off into the distance when chunks are loading, but that's a given with a lower end chip. Got a little dynamite test coming up here. By the way, I'm using a Bluetooth Xbox One controller here to play this, and you can swap out to a keyboard as you see my mouse cursor on screen. When it disappears, I'm using the controller. And finally, we have Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. Now, I forgot to turn the music off in the game. Sound is working through my USB adapter. I just didn't feel like going back and recording this, so I turned it off in this video so I didn't get a copyright strike for the music playing in the car. As you can see here, San Andreas is performing great, so if you want to do any of the other Rockstar games, like Bully, Vice City, or Grand Theft Auto 3, they're going to work just as well. Next up, we have some N64 emulation. Unfortunately, I couldn't get Rogue Squadron working, so we're going to go with some 007 GoldenEye and Killer Instinct. I can tell you right now that Conker's Bad Fur Day is going to run fine on this in Android. In my initial video I did on the Atomic Pi, I tested out PSP and Dreamcast running in Linux, and performance was decent with both of them. PSP works great, Dreamcast struggles with some 3D games. It's kind of the same thing with Android on the Atomic Pi. And here's the N64 version of Killer Instinct. And finally, a little bit of video playback from YouTube. Now, this version of Prime OS comes with the phone version of the YouTube app, so we can't choose 4K or anything like that, but it still looks pretty good and it performs fine here. If you want to install Kodi and run video and music from an external hard drive or a NAS, that's going to work fine on here. You could also install a build of Kodi and stream your favorite stuff like that. Like I mentioned, I couldn't find Netflix on the Google Play Store, but you could sideload it. It's not going to be the Android TV version. The phone version is going to work on here. But I did personally test out Hulu, and it works fine on this device. Overall, Android performs pretty well on the Atomic Pi. There's a few different distributions that you can install, like Prime OS, which you saw in this video, the original Android X86 Nougat. There's also Bliss OS and Phoenix OS. I'm sure there's a few others out there. Keep in mind that Android X86 is always being worked on, and the version I used was Release Candidate 1. They usually do a Release Candidate 2, but that's not out yet, and when it's released, I will test it again just to make sure everything works with Oreo on the Atomic Pi. But if you want to run Nougat, it works great. Personally, I wouldn't install Android on here as my daily driver, but if you want to mess around with it, I'm going to leave some links in the description to videos I created on how to get it up and running on x86 platforms. If it was up to me, I would just install a Linux variant on here like Pop! OS or Lubuntu and be done with it, but I know you guys want to see more, so I will have more videos coming. I'm going to be testing out Recalbox, Batocera, and even Windows 10. The Atomic Pi was available on Amazon for $35 with free Prime shipping, but it's been sold out since I made the initial video. But it's still up for sale on the official Digital Loggers website. Only catch is, it's $12 for shipping, so it's not a $35 single board computer anymore. So if you're interested in picking one up, I would wait until it comes back in stock on Amazon, because $35 with free Prime shipping is totally worth it for this little machine. So that's pretty much it for this video, guys. I really appreciate you watching. I do have more coming up on the Atomic Pi. I got a couple other operating systems that I want to test out, and if there's anything else you want to see, let me know in the comments below. But like always, thanks for watching.